be very quick. I have really one question, and then we'll let the committee go from there. The administration is requesting increases for the State Department's Office of the Coordinator for Reconstruction and Stabilization in at least 3 different places. First, there's a $40 million request for a new stabilization bridge fund, which I'm told would provide program money for the Coordinator for Reconstruction and Stabilization. Secondly, the Civilian Stabilization Initiative is increased from $40 million to $323 million, and this is reportedly to be used to hire and deploy additional staff for SCRS. And third, there's a large increase in Section 1207 of the National Defense Authorization Act, under which DoD transfers money, program money to SCRS. Why all these different names and spigots? And how is what SCRS does different from what USAID's Office of Transition Initiatives does, given that large increases have also been requested for that account? Now, I should acknowledge I was very interested in this Civilian Stabilization Initiative and worked closely with other members to make sure it passed, so maybe I'm not the right person to be asking this question, but we're just trying to get a little sense of what you're thinking about here.
Mr. Chairman, the civilian stabilization and reconstruction capability that we're seeking to build, we think is essential to having the State Department return to the role that I think we and you agree the State Department should have in terms of projecting civilian presence in situations where in recent years the Defense Department has moved in because no one else has been there to step in and do the job. It's not something that the Defense Department originally wanted to do. I know in the years I was at OMB, it was quite difficult to get the Defense Department to jump in on situations like that. Over the course of the last 8 years, it's become more common practice. But I think what we see quite clearly is the fact that there simply are not enough resources in the State Department and USAID today for us to have the kind of nimble, quick response capability that we really need to have to respond when there are crisis situations, when there are stabilization efforts that need to be undertaken. The size of SCRS that we started out with is in the dozens of people. It's not a force size large enough to deploy in multiple locations with serious presence. So the first point is it needs to be a substantially larger capability. And the capability needs to come in multiple forms. We need to have full-time FTEs who are deployed constantly in that function. We need to have the ability to call on government employees who are, in a sense, internal ready reserves who can be brought into an effort when they're needed. And we also need to have the capacity to reach outside of government, much the way the military reserves are able to reach outside of government when they need to deploy. At the moment, it's an idea. Much of this reserve capacity, most of it remains to be built. We want to go from dozens to a size in the thousands in just a short period of time. So I think that we're in a building stage. I can't explain the thought process that went in originally to creating SCRS in the place it was created. That was done before I got to the State Department. I have many questions about the coordination between state and USAID. And my own view is that we need to bring together our management of the expeditionary capacity of the State Department so wherever FTEs are housed, we manage them in a coordinated way. I tend to be less theological about which label they come under and much more concerned about how they're managed. In fact, the SCRS staff is divided between USAID and state. I think we need to think of it as a whole, as something that can be managed both strategically and tactically. We look forward to working with this committee as we think through how to go from this very initial stage we're at now to very rapidly ramping up a fulsome capacity, because I think this is going to be essential for the State Department to have the civilian capacity. And part of the reason for the 1207 being held over is that until we have the capacity, needs arise that we need to be able to meet on a real-time basis. And the 1207 authority is something that helps fill that gap. I would hope that it's not needed in the long term.
All right. Well, it is what I was hoping to elicit is what I elicited, that there is a overall notion here of creating this institution. You have different pots, but the intention is that it act as a whole unit.